guys, so I'm here today to do a recent favourites video. It's been a while since I've done favourites. I don't think I've done a monthly favourites for the past couple of months, so I thought I would just do a general roundup of some of the things I have absolutely loved and adored over the past few months. So this is going back into summer and we've got things including books, experiences, television shows, and even some household items. So without further ado, let's get into my recent favourites. I always start with books in these videos, so I will continue with that and begin by showing you Miscegenation, The True Scale of Sexism by Laura Bates. This is Laura Bates' second non-fiction book for adults. She has another non-fiction book which is aimed more at young adults, but I loved Everyday Sexism. It was a really moving book for me. It had a big impact on me, so when I heard that she had this essay collection coming out, of course I wanted to pick it up, and I did pretty immediately after it came out and was not disappointed. Much like with Everyday Sexism, this book very much made me cry, it made me feel angry, it made me feel determined to not let things go and to stand up for better. And as the title suggests, this one also explores sexism, the varying different degrees of sexism in everyday society that people suffer, and it also has a particular focus on sexism in the media and the way that the media can propagate sexism and kind of continue to let it sort of insidiously seep into our everyday lives and our minds. So yeah, really important book, I think. Really big fan of Laura Bates' work and was super pleased I wasn't disappointed by this. I also picked up a children's book called Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This book has been having loads and loads of hype, and the sequel actually comes out this month, which I'm super excited about. But I just particularly love this book because it's been so long since I've enjoyed a children's book to this degree. There was something about this book that, even though it was for children and I've read children's books as adults I hadn't read previously and enjoyed them, they've always felt like children's books. They've always felt a little bit lacking for me as an adult, whereas this book was just through and through perfection. It had so much to offer me despite being an adult. I found it to be such wonderful magical escapism, really intriguing plot, fun, interesting characters, and I think this one is totally worth the hype. It is about a young girl called Morrigan Crow who is fated to die on her 11th birthday, but instead is abducted by a man called Jupiter, who takes her to Nevermore in order to take part in these trials to get into the Wondrous Society. And to get into the Wondrous Society you have to have a special gift, but she doesn't know if she does. She's not familiar with one. So absolutely wonderful. If you're a little bit dubious about children's books as an adult, this is a great one to try, and if you already are into your kind of middle grade children's fiction, I think, do you know, this is such an off topic. I find it quite funny that I now have this idea of what middle grade is in terms of literature. It's a term that's become quite common even in the sort of UK booktube sphere, when, as far as I'm aware, middle school isn't a thing here. I don't actually know what it refers to, I just think of it as children, because at least in Scotland we don't have middle school and I don't know what age it refers to, but yes, I get that it categorises books, so if that helped. And the last book I want to mention is an association with an experience and a piece of content that I've created, and that is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. This is a retelling of the ancient Greek epic the Iliad from the perspective of Briseis, who is a Trojan slave woman. She has been taken by the Greeks during the war and been given as a slave to Achilles, the Greek hero. And it is a harrowing book. It is not cheerful, but it is such a wonderfully written book. Briseis is given this really full character and seeing things from her perspective and the perspective of women during wartime, and captured women, was so incredibly moving and important that I'm just so impressed by this. This is my first Pat Barker, but I will certainly be reading more of her in the future. And I also had the great privilege of interviewing Pat Barker for my podcast, which I think I've mentioned in a few videos now, but if you're not familiar, I have a podcast called That's Ancient History, which deals with classical antiquity predominantly. I mean, I'm happy to go beyond that, but so far it's dealt with classical antiquity in varying different forms, and season 2 starts in October, so either it is about to start when this video goes up or has already started, and I believe it's Monday the 29th episode 1 will be going live, which is my interview with Pat Barker, and she was such a pleasure to interview. She was such an interesting person, such an interesting author. I really enjoyed getting her insight and behind the scenes thoughts on the Iliad and generally kind of PTSD, writing about war, women in antiquity and all of these different things. It was so interesting. I loved interviewing her, and I'm so excited for you to all be able to listen to the output from that interview, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. You certainly don't need to have read this book before listening to the interview, so it may in fact inspire you to pick this book up, which I would highly recommend. No films, but I do have 2 TV shows I want to mention. The first one is the new Doctor Who. What can I say? I'm in love with Jodie Whittaker. She is an amazing Doctor. So if you're not familiar, Doctor Who is a science fiction television show filmed in the UK. It actually started back in the 20th century, went away for a while, and then they brought it back because the Doctor is an alien who regenerates and can be played by different actors essentially. However, in the many years of Doctor Who on the television, there has never been a female Doctor before, and this is the first time that a woman has been cast to play Doctor Who, and there was obviously some controversy surrounding that because, oh, horror, the idea that a woman might get the role. But Jodie Whittaker is amazing. I got a little bit out of Doctor Who despite being a massive fan during the Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant years, during the Matt Smith years, and I've been trying to get back into it kind of since I fell out of love with it a little bit, and tried a few Peter Capaldi episodes, who was the last actor to play Doctor Who, but didn't quite manage it, so was looking forward to giving it a shot with the new kind of regeneration of the show with Jodie Whittaker, and I have been so impressed. There has been 3 episodes so far, they've all been fantastic. She nails the kind of combination of fun and serious that I want from a Doctor. I think she's honestly perfect for the role, but not only that, I think all of her assistants are fantastic as well. In this season she actually has 3 assistants, which is a little bit different, and I think they've all been cast so well. It's all just perfect, as you can tell. I'm so very much enjoying the new Doctor Who, and I'm so glad to have rediscovered a series that I used to love so much. So I've actually been rewatching some of the David Tennant and Catherine Tate episodes on Netflix recently as well. But yeah, had to mention Doctor Who. And next up is Killing Eve. So this is a television series that began this year, and the first season went live on the BBC. It is a crime drama following one woman who's a government agent in the UK and another woman who is an assassin, and it's brilliant. The acting in this television show is incredible, particularly from the actress that plays Villette, who is the assassin, but equally from our investigator and all of the other cast. It's just amazing. It has been getting a lot of buzz and a lot of hype, but if you haven't heard of it or haven't yet checked out, I would highly encourage you to do so. I'm super intrigued to see where it goes in season 2, because honestly I have no idea. I mentioned home decor, didn't I? So I'm going to share that with you next, and it's this lamp, right? I hope you can see that properly. It is basically an angle poised lamp, although this doesn't bend, but the head does, so you can move it for your comfort. And I have lived in this flat in London for 2 years this month without a bedside lamp. It is one of those things that's been on my list of, I need a bedside lamp, since basically the day I moved in. But it took me 2 years for me to get here, and I'm glad that we did finally get here, because reading with a bedside lamp as opposed to my really bright overhead light has been such a treat. You don't understand how excited I was about this, and really there was no reason for it to take me this long, because this was not expensive. It was £8 from Argos. It is Argos's own homeware brand. It's a nice minty colour. I think it also came in pink and white, and a full length version, which was again still under £20. But yeah, basically I'm in love with having a bedside lamp, but also how lovely the design of this one is, especially for the price. I was so pleased, because I thought I was going to end up having to spend loads of money to get a nice lamp, but honestly I would have been drawn to this even if it wasn't £8. That was just a wonderful bonus, and was what pushed me to finally pick up the bedside lamp of my dreams. So had to mention this. But the next 2 things are sort of semi-experiences, semi-entertainment. They're not books or films that you can just look up online. One is a play. So when I was in Edinburgh in August, I went to some things at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with my friends Jill and Magdalena, and one of the things we went to see was Voldemort and the Teenage Hogwarts musical parody. Yes, you heard me right. This was a piece of musical theatre set during the time that Lord Voldemort, or Tom Riddle, was at Hogwarts School, so in the 1940s. It's set around the time or just at the end of World War II. And the premise of this is that the Quidditch Cup has been cancelled and instead they're having a kind of X Factor like musical competition at the end of the year. And the different students are taking part in that with their own songs, but also in the meantime there's just generally various other different songs going on throughout the storyline. Tom is actually in a relationship with a Hufflepuff girl called Muffin Rose, and he's trying to be good for her despite his dark desires. However, we all know the tragedy of Voldemort, so things don't quite work out, and it's following the sort of journey of Voldemort's teenage years. Obviously it's a parody, it's made up, it is not in any way canon, but I'm never going to be able to get this out of my head now. I'm going to read Harry Potter forever now thinking of Tom Riddle's relationship with Muffin Rose when he was at Hogwarts and how different things could have been. It was so good. It was so funny, so entertaining. The songs were so catchy. I'm so sad that they're not on iTunes. I'm hoping maybe if this play gets bigger they will be, but if this is something that's being performed near you anytime soon, I would highly encourage you to go and see it. I think it's from an American performance troupe. Genuinely the funniest thing I've seen all year. Loved it. Want to see it again. Would see it again if I knew if it was on near me. And the second piece of entertainment / experiences I want to mention is Standon Calling. I know, what is that? It's a music festival in Standon, which is in Hertfordshire in England. I don't know, my flatmate just drove us there. I'd never been to Standon before, but this is a sort of slightly more intimate, small-sized music festival, but it's been growing over the past few years and my flatmate is a big fan of it, so she suggested that me, her and another friend of ours go together, and I'm so pleased she did, because I'm not somebody that goes to see a lot of music. I've never been that drawn to music festivals. I went to one when I was 18 called Tea in the Park in the UK and didn't particularly feel any desire to repeat the experience. But this time we just went for the day, so there was no camping involved, which works much better for me. And we went for the Saturday, where the headliner was George Ezra. So if you know me, you know George Ezra is my favourite contemporary musician. I love George Ezra, I love both his albums, all of his songs, all of his music, and he was spectacular. He was such a good performer, such a good entertainer, just nailed it all. But in general, aside from loving seeing George Ezra live, I loved the vibe at Standon Calling as well. I would definitely go back, maybe actually go for the weekend, because there was such a nice feel to it. It felt quite family friendly. There was various different artists of different sizes going on. There was little tents where you could just sit down on cushions and listen to like quite new musicians playing instruments or doing cover songs. There was a huge tent that sort of had like a dance disco going on inside it at one point. They were playing Christmas music. There was obviously the main stage, then there was like a second stage and then some smaller kind of tents, and as well as that there was lots of yummy food and drinks and such a nice atmosphere for just laying around, listening to music, enjoying friends' company. The theme was space, so pretty much everyone was in some degree of fancy dress. Just loved it, and if you're into music festivals, if you haven't been to Standon Calling, if you live in the UK, definitely worth checking out. But lastly, I thought I would mention one more thing, and that is the library. So I'd gotten out of the habit of using my library since moving to London, and I joined for the first time in London at the beginning of this year, and have gradually been getting more and more into using my library, and of late I've just become addicted. I love my library again, which I'm so pleased about, because I was a big library user all throughout my childhood and teenage years, and I think part of it was just having the sort of growing privilege of being sent free books by publishers. When you've got access to all those free books, you don't need to go to the library as much, do you? But at the same time, those are all new releases. If I go to the library, I've got a wealth of selection from across the years, and I love it. So I've really gotten back into the habit of using the library, particularly for comic books and graphic novels. That's been really great because those are expensive, and I also realised recently that I can rent or borrow audiobooks from my library via an app, which is amazing. When I was a kid, I used to borrow cassette tapes from my library and listen to audiobooks on cassette tapes from the library, but now, in the age of technology, you can borrow them on an app. So it's amazing. I am in love with my library again, and I had to just mention it and perhaps encourage you to join your library if you haven't already. I have done a book haul specifically on library books this month, so if you're interested in checking that out as well, I will link that down below. But those are all the things I want to mention. It's been a while since I did a favourite, so I had to narrow it down to some real high points of the past few months. Hopefully, however, you find something that interested you in this video that you might also enjoy. Let me know what you have been enjoying recently, regardless of what it is. I would love to hear about what's making you happy. And until next time, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye!